The time is just gone 9 minutes to 9, and it's time for the weekly edition of Crime Talk with eThekwini Secure. And this morning we want to focus on the flooding or the aftermath of the flooding in KwaZulu Natal. Let us not take our eyes off the ball. We know that the destruction, the death, the devastation it has caused, and through organizations like eThekwini Secure, providing a lot of assistance and also in coordinating the relief effort. And we need to get an update because this has been huge, this has been massive for South Africa. KZN and the Greater Durban region obviously has suffered immensely, tremendously as a result of the flooding. And we joined on the line this morning by the chairperson of eThekwini Secure, none other than Imtiaz Syed. Imtiaz, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As always, welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having us today.
Yes, as I mentioned, let us not take our eyes off the ball. We know what has happened in KwaZulu-Natal, the aftermath of the flooding, people trying to pick up the pieces, to gather their lives,
Absolutely.
to try and obviously, recover from the experience that they've had, Imtiaz.
No, absolutely. I think, just to try and get an understanding, the flooding in comparison to the previous floodings that we've had were more devastating in terms of actual households being affected than just infrastructure. So with that, there's many lives that were affected. I mean, in the previous floods, it was about the city, it was about businesses, it was about those kinds of things. But now it's affected lives at its core level, and that's most concerning. So that's basically where it is. And in eThekwini, we've got something like 590 informal settlements. From them, quite a few of these informal settlements have been affected. And now the question arises that why did we allow these situations to get out of control? Why did people live on riverbanks? And why was not something done? And these are things that are now coming up in discussions across the board on all spheres of government to say, how do we move forward and how do we get going from here and where to from here if we in fact are going to be doing anything that is sustainably improving the lives and quality of the residents of eThekwini.
Yes, yeah, interesting that you speak about informal settlements because I think sometimes there isn't a lot of focus on informal settlements, and we
Absolutely.
know that many of these people, wherever they're going to find a place or space to put up a little home for themselves, whether it's next to a
Yes.
river or even certain areas, like for instance, when we look at the visuals that had taken place during the flooding, the mudslides, all of that. Now these
Yes.
are obviously all dangerous areas, and when we're talking about planning and as you mentioned, all spheres of government, and particularly looking at local government, there are certain major considerations that one needs to take into account when analyzing what has happened, and also the devastation that the flooding has caused, Imtiaz. Yes, it appears as if Imtiaz Syed has frozen for some reason or the other. We're going to try and get hold of Imtiaz very quickly again. For some weird reason, I suppose. Again, we can blame it on one thing: is signal strength, and that is a common problem. But we definitely will try and get hold of Imtiaz Syed very, very quickly once again. But again, talking about picking up the pieces, it's difficult. It is extremely. It's not easy. We know that a lot of relief effort, relief work has obviously taken place, but that does obviously provide temporary relief by way of food, by way of water, and providing for some of the day-to-day necessities. But the key issue, as he just mentioned, is one needs to introspect, one needs to go back and to understand. I mean, he mentioned well over 500 informal settlements, and some of them located in extremely dangerous areas. But when a person doesn't have a home, when a person is desperate, he will move in to wherever he can, and for himself, for the sake of his family. And this is something that we need to think about. And we see the what has happened in KwaZulu Natal. It could easily happen in many other areas. We've seen it happen even in Gauteng, where certain areas, the where certain settlements are alongside certain rivers, where we've seen flooding taking place. We've seen loss of life. We've seen so much where people have basically lost everything that they've worked for their entire lives. So as we try and get hold of Imtiaz Syed once again, hopefully we should get him very, very shortly in the next minute or two. And I know my engineer Nasreen is trying extremely hard, but we will get hold of Imtiaz just to see from eThekwini's perspective, and also at the same time looking at government, looking at local government in the KwaZulu-Natal region, looking at municipalities as well, because these are all fears that he's talking about. We know that at the national level, we've seen the pronouncements come through from the likes of the government as far as KwaZulu-Natal is concerned. But more importantly, it is the local government and provincial government, because they manage the day-to-day issues in the province. So if we do get hold of him, just we'll be lucky. I see we can't for some reason or the other. We are betting to get hold of, but we are heading very, very close to the to 9 o'clock to the break. And just to remind our viewers about what we can still expect, we've got a very interesting discussion coming up with Pakistan-based journalist Jahanzeb Hussain, talking about the army, and Imran Khan has made a statement at the Jilam Jalsa, saying that the PTI and the army are keeping Pakistan together. So that's going to be quite an interesting discussion. Also looking at South Africa, is South Africa still considered a preferred destination for foreign investment? And the big talking point, and towards the end of the show, we will be talking with Dr. Firoz Osman from the Media Review Network. We're talking about the killing, about the brutal murder of Shireen Abu Aksib, and the key issue here is sorry, Shireen Abu Akli, and also looking at South Africa in particular, because we've seen a mainstream media that has been absolutely silent, and we've seen comments come through in terms of Palestinian blood is cheap compared to Anglo-Saxon blood, which is holy. The hypocrisy surrounding Ukraine versus Palestine, and there are also calls for South Africans to call into radio stations, the mainstream radio stations, to ask why there is virtually no coverage of Shireen's murder. Are they captured? And this is a question. Are they captured by the local pro-Israeli lobby? So they're talking about, always phoning in. Many are saying that they are not answering, wanted to give them the breaking news in case their internet was down and they missed a big story. But again, there is social media, there is Twitter, and this is what we need to do. And last night we did a full broadcast, a 1 hour broadcast paying tribute to the murdered journalist, and this was something that came up as well, because it's very, very interesting to see even media giants like the likes of CNN, BBC, repeating the Israeli narrative over and over again. So we will be talking with Dr. Firoz Osman about the killing of the journalist, and also at around 9:35. We will be celebrating Africa Month. We'll be talking with Gideon Chitanga, who is a regional analyst at PESA South Africa. Next up is we're going to play out A Time to Please Allah, and this is by the Labbaik Group. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back with a lot more from now right until 10 a.m. Stay with us, don't go away.